Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman miniature game battle report for the channel, and it is Halloween time in Gotham, and if you're a channel member you're probably seeing this early, but if you're not you will be seeing this in real life Halloween, so happy Halloween. And to mark the occasion, Gotham has become overgrown with giant pumpkins. It's not Poison Ivy doing it though, it is Scarecrow, which means they might not even be real. Maybe they're just figments of the imagination. But Scarecrow is going up against a little bit of a different GCPD list. They're actually referred to as law forces now, by the way. They keep changing the names. I'm just going to stick with GCPD because it's mostly cop focused, although we are actually testing a little bit of a variance, as you can hopefully see right now. But we'll go over that in more detail in a second. Oh, and in keeping with the spookiest time of year, just a reminder, do not support Night Models. They are an awful company. You can support them again once they have fulfilled their outstanding, successful crowdfunding campaigns. The poor saps that back them are still waiting on their product. And maybe communicate with people why they disappeared for a year and why they're now doing STLs only, because it's lazy and easy. And, all that bad stuff. Don't support them. So let's start with the Scarecrow crew, since he's responsible for this. There's only 4 of them that are actually real, the rest aren't there, it's your imagination. So on the left side of your screen are the ones that are real, starting with Scarecrow, the worst nightmare, one of the coolest models to exist for the game. He's joined by Dr. Fritawa, who I keep forgetting, my model came broke, so she's missing a hand. But that's okay, that's just a hallucination as well, probably. She has the Intense Fear and Working in Advance upgrades, which means a fear card starts in their objective deck, and 1 card from the GCPD side is going to be in the Terror pile to start the game. The 2 Arkham Assistants are here as well. You can only bring them if you either bring Hugo Strange or Scarecrow, so that's why they're allowed. And then we have the imaginary monsters. We have the Fear Beast Nightmare, who's the largest tree one at the back there. He's got the Terror Invigoration upgrade. The one that's like a very traditional Scarecrow, that's Nightmare Fear. He's got Fear Dampening. Then the one that's kind of doing like a soliloquy with his pumpkin head, that is the Nightmare of Demotivation. And then there is 2 new Little Nightmares. They got added once the game was, or during the period the game was dead. They're basically the same. They have a few different rules of how they come back from being removed, because they don't die really. And they have a better chance of avoiding ranged attacks because they're little. But beyond that, they're basically the same, just cheaper, and you can have them as a horde. One thing to mention about the objective deck the crew is using is that I was under the incorrect assumption that because Scarecrow shipped with a 30 card deck, that when everybody else got 30 card decks, his wasn't touched because it came pre-prepared for that change they were making. That's incorrect. His deck did actually change. There's 1 new card. A couple of cards have different amounts now. And mostly the changes are actually just cleaning up the awful English in them, so they read a lot better. But I didn't know that some of them had actually changed. So we are just using his default 30 card deck that he originally shipped with, so this is not up to date. I'll need to find some time to go get the new deck printed out for the next time he's on the table. So since returning to the Batman miniature game, we tried out the Vigilante deck, which is kind of like the Batman deck, but also other associated superheroes in the Gotham universe. And we have also tried out the GCPD deck, which is mostly now focused on Gordon and his cops. However, the Bat family is incorporated into the GCPD list. The extended family of superheroes that are outside of Batman and his associates, they are not available for it. But the Vigilante deck didn't feel great to use, and its mechanic of thwarting, like having the 8 thwart tokens, was tedious and horrible to use. So I wanted to test out how applicable is it, or how good does it work if you have a Batman focused GCPD / law forces list. So we have the classic version of Batman, which I think is my favourite version of Batman outside of the really giant versions. We've got the Rebirth version of Nightwing. We have the Tim Drake version of Robin that they added just before they decided to take a year off from doing anything with their game, which did wonders for its health. We have the Alfred Pennyworth Intel support character, so like Dr. Fritawa, he's not really on the table. And then we have Harvey Bullock. He's the one representation of, by the way, this is meant to be a cops list. As such, he has a ridiculous amount of equipment. Oh, as far as other equipment goes, Batman has an upgraded Batsuit for +1 endurance. Nightwing has a hidden magazine, so he has more ranged attacks. And Tim Drake Robin has Inspiring Presence, which gives him leadership. Bullock, though, he has a whistle, he has a helmet, he has a gas mask, he has an antidote, he has intense training, and a radio. So he always counts as being inspired. He has teamwork 1 with everybody. He's immune to poison, he's immune to anything that has the gas trait. He is hardened, and he has the stop special command, which you would have to have audacity to use. So he has a bunch of stuff. I hope I covered everything. So yeah, we're testing that out. At some point in the future, we're absolutely going to try out a vigilante deck with just ignoring the dumb thwart thing. It might make their deck too easy to score, that's what my worry is, but we'll test it at some point in the future because that thwart thing is just tedious. And you still have to run vigilantes if you wanted, say for instance, a Teen Titans specific list, because there is some Teen Titan objective cards that you only get access to in a vigilante list. But anyway, we can talk about that at some point in the future. I think that's covered everything. We'll get set up, be back after this quick word from my channel sponsor. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. And with that, we are all set up and good to go. It might be a bit hard to see where everybody is, and Nightwing doesn't start on the table because he has Shadowed Nightmare. But you can probably see where Bullock has used his hidden to deploy to. He's been investigating what's been going on with the pumpkins that may or may not be real. Alfred is over there next to that Joker poster, and Batman and Robin are behind that same building. On the left side, all the Nightmares don't start on the table, so it's just the 4 models. Nightmares spawn in for their activation off of the back of suspect markers, so that's as they'll be appearing. Their respawn mechanics, as I say, are a bit different between Nightmares and Little Nightmares. Anyway, you can see where Scarecrow is, and one of the orderlies is next to him, the fat one, the thin one. You might be able to see him actually bottom left. Dr. Fridowa is on the far side of the rune up the top side there, and all 4 of them have Audacity. Only Bullock does not have Audacity for the GCPD. And both sides have cards in their deck which have the opening keyword, so they actually are in play from the very start of the game. State of Fear for the Scarecrow crew. For each fear card that is returned to the fear deck, place a marker on this. Once per round, discard the top card of your objective deck, and based on the number of markers on here, that's your chance to have it score. I think that is one of the cards that also changed in his new deck. It's a completely new card. Nightwing has a unique card, which is worth a massive 4. It's called Great Performance. Target a friendly model with the alias Nightwing. Place 1 marker on this card when the target sets a suspect marker within 4 of an enemy. Place another one on this card when he inflicts a KO on a target. Score if this is still in play, if Nightwing is still in play at the end of this game, and it has the marker for him doing each of those things. So as long as he's done one of those, or both of those things rather, across the entirety of the game, and is still very much conscious at the end of the game, that's 4 points right at the end, which could be a censure. So that is the only other extra thing to cover. After the initiative roll, Scarecrow's crew has 1, which is good for them because they desperately need to put down suspect markers as soon as possible. I think that's partially why the new card that got added in their kind of deck rework is a card that lets them bring back the orderlies and such. It's because if you take out everybody who can put down suspect markers, he's just done because the Nightmares can't come back. But anyway, let's jump into turn 1. Dr. Fridowa got the game started, so this gives me an excuse to show this side of the table where she is. She moved up 8 inches. She's an intel support character, as I mentioned, I believe, so she's not in any danger of getting beaten up or anything. She put down a suspect marker, so her Induce Fear trait kicked in, which means a fear card gets added to the objective deck, and she put into play It's Okay to Be Afraid, one of the many limited cards in Scarecrow's deck, so 1 of each instance can only be active at a time. When a friendly model places a suspect, target that suspect. If that target is in play the next time you draw or discard a fear card, this scores for 3. So if someone removes that, that will immediately get discarded. Oh, during Fright's activation, that's the easier thing to call her than Dr. Fridowa, although she's only known as Fright in Black Mask's crew. Monitoring was played by the GCPD. Play when an enemy model performs a movement action. This is hopefully in focus. Place a marker on this card when a friendly model sets a suspect within 8 of that model. Place 3 instead if it's a cop. That's not going to happen because Bullock's on the opposite side of the table. And you score it when there's 6 markers. So it's probably not going to score, but it's also limited and also now in play. The Intel support version of Alfred was the first to activate for the GCPD with Audacity, but didn't do much outside of a manipulate plus a move. He moved his 8 inches as well. Beside this van, he has placed a suspect marker down just there out of sight. I guess there was a guy still in that van cowering in fear, and it has become a snitch, a turn 1 snitch, which gives it a much better chance to score. Play when a friendly model sets a suspect until the end of the round. It's also a snitch marker. You can't reveal or remove it. As long as there's no enemy models within 4 inches of it, it will score only for 2 at the end of the round. The nerfed version is only worth 2. But that's fine, because it was way too powerful before. Next activation for Scarecrow's crew was one of the nightmares being put into play. They can have audacity without being on the table, they come into contact with a friendly suspect, they can't move, if they would get knocked out they get removed, and they have a 4-inch attack radius around them or manipulate, and they're only allowed to at most place a suspect in their activation, or reveal I think as well as how it's worded. During the sort of activation, because he didn't really do anything other than spawn in, what do you fear is put into play. It's another limited card, so no more of these can go in play until this is scored. When a fear card is returned to the fear pile, place 1 marker on this card and score when it has 4. It's worth 3. So another good card to get out early. The only cop on the table, Bullock, activated, and for Harvey's turn, he doesn't have audacity, but he has a radio, along with the plethora of other bits of gear he was given. He moved his 8 inches, he put down a suspect marker, which is within 8 of the lanky Arkham orderly, who you can probably just see up there by that lamppost, and in doing so scored planting evidence. He is literally the only one on the table that can score this card for the GCPD. A friendly model with the cop trait and without the incorruptible trait sets a suspect marker within 8 of an enemy model, and no other friendly models have line of sight to the suspect marker. Alfred is close, but there's a van and a car in between, he can't see it. So yeah, planting evidence, that's a very Bullock thing to do. Well, pre-Jim Gordon making him not as bad a cop, I guess. So yeah, that's scored. So they're on the scoreboard for 2. During Bullock's activation, Scarecrow's crew is actually putting into play an objective card as well. As a reminder, you can play 1 card during each activation, so that includes enemy activations. Test Patience. It's like the only card left with the limited keyword that can be put into play. This one is each time a friendly model with the nightmare traits, all the unreal monsters, score at least 1 successful hit, place a marker on this card and you score it for 2 if it ever gets to 5. Not super likely against the Bat family and their high defense and such, but hey, it might as well be in play. One of the Arkham orderlies, the tall lanky one, activated, moved up and put down a suspect marker. I forgot to go over what upgrades he and the other one have. I just went over the nightmare upgrade. He has neurotropic drugs, so he has +2 movement and dodge, and the fat one has one called Apparition. It lets her spawn into a place where Nightmare is. She kind of swaps places with it, and then the Nightmare is discarded. Anyway, that's all he did during his activation, is put down that suspect marker, but off the back of that, Nightwing is proccing Shadowed Nightmare. He is appearing right there, and it's now going to be a very bad day for that poor orderly. So of course Nightwing activated and immediately went to work. Speaking of which, he procced Vigilante's work instantly, so 1 effort to himself for 1 stun damage to do an extra manipulate. He put down a suspect marker within 4 inches of a, at that point, conscious enemy model, meeting one of the criteria for great performance. He then brought out his, I keep on forgetting what his sticks are called, they're like a charisma sticks. Either way, he used those. Enervating 1 from Shadowed Nightmare was applied, not that it mattered. Wasn't going to use any extra dice because there's double stun coming in, so wouldn't want to do any efforts. He hit with every single attack, and because of combo it was actually a total of 7, 6 normals plus the strength die. 2 of them were saved by the orderly, but that was just the 2 extra ones, so he took 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10 stun. He is very much unconscious, and that meets the other criteria for great performance. As long as Nightwing is still on the table and alive by the end of the game, that will score for 4. That was actually pretty easy to meet the criteria for. He has an unused special action. He can't arrest or anything like that. The only special action he has is Bat Claw, so he's just going to chill out there. He's done. Well, the plan was for the big Nightmare to spawn in off the back of that suspect marker, but there isn't actually enough room to fit his huge base thanks to Nightwing's fairly large base, so the other largish one had to appear, and for his action attacked Nightwing. Not great, their base 2 attack, defense 2. He does have devastating though, so it was 2 strength dice, and he got snake eyes on the defense, the strength dice, which is really unfortunate because if one of them had been a crit, it would have done fear. Or terror. I think it's called fear, but it does terror because language is hard. Anyway, he only got 1 hit through, which Nightwing easily blocked. It also would have poisoned if he'd got a hit, and it would have progressed one of their objective cards. So a whole bunch of stuff failed to happen off the back of that bad attack. Second last activation of the round for the GCPD was Batman. He ran out from behind the building. This is a Batman that has really fast movement, 12 inches base plus Bat Armor MK2 or whatever MK he has, gives him an extra inch as well. Didn't use it all, he just got into position to throw some batarangs at the Scarecrow apparition, and in doing so easily destroyed it because they're defense 2 and have 2 endurance, so it's very easy to get rid of them, but they keep coming back. In knocking him out, an apparition is just removed. Can't come back this round, but can come back in subsequent rounds. He also scored They Won't See Me Coming, which is actually the perfect card because it's the exact pose he's in for the model, just kind of mirrored. A friendly model inflicts damage on an enemy model that it did not have line of sight to the attacker at the start of the activation, and that is true. So it has scored for 2. Well, we're staying up there because that little nightmare that got removed, well, not literally a little nightmare, the Scarecrow nightmare, got replaced by the gigantic Nightmare Tree, aka the Fear Beast, who's a little stronger than average. Batman was within 4 inches after he spawned off of that suspect marker, so he did an attack action. He had 1 extra die because of the upgrade given to him, gives him extra dice based on number of cards in the terror pile, and the game started with 1 in there, thanks to Dr. Fridois. Anyway, he's got a strength die roll of 3+, which is his upside, and he's got 3 base attacks up to 4. The strength die got through, Batman easily saved against the others, but that strength die getting through does 1 blood, 1 stun, I think it is, and more importantly, it does terror and true fear. So a fear card gets shuffled into Scarecrow's deck, and a objective card gets stolen and put into the terror pile. So that's the real key, and it is blood stun. I had to double check in the app there, but it is blood stun, so that is a little tiny bit of damage done. It compensates for the extra endurance he has from having the Batsuit upgrade, I guess, but more importantly is those terror upgrades. That puts 1 marker on Test Patience as well for a nightmare getting a hit, and the second marker in State of Fear because there's now 2 cards in the terror pile. Last activation of turn 1 for the GCPD was Tim Drake Robin. He moves 10 inches, he moved out into the open where you can see him there. He is illuminated, but Scarecrow doesn't have any guns or anything, so it's fine. And he doesn't have batarangs, unfortunately. First time using this Robin, thought he did. He doesn't. He has smoke pellets. So that's unfortunate. He was going to use the batarangs to take out the big Nightmare Tree. What he did do, though, is hacking. He has that as a special action. You pick up to 2 markers within 8 and move them 4. So he picked that suspect marker that the Nightmares have been spawning off of and moved it back towards the spawn. It's behind this building, but it's down there, basically putting it out of the way, so as the Nightmares spawn off it, if they choose to, there isn't really anything for them to do there. So now it's just going to be a bunch of activations for Scarecrow. He's got to activate, his other orderly's got to activate, and there's still 2 little Nightmares to spawn in. And the first thing to happen was one of those little Nightmares popping up where that suspect marker has been moved to, just to provide a potential bodyguard for where Scarecrow might end up moving. The tubby orderly interacted with the sewer she started next to and has ended up on top of that building over there and is doing nothing else with her activation. So finally we have Scarecrow's activation to cover, and he always ends up doing a lot. He moved to there very specifically with some careful measuring such that if he put down a suspect marker, which he did, it is outside of 2 inches beyond his deployment and outside of 4 of that suspect marker. So that is all covered, it was carefully measured, it is fine. Also, the final little nightmare for the round is just popping up off of that one, so he's there, it's done, so we don't need to do another clip after this. During his turn, he put in New Compound into play. It's a limited one, again, it's one of Dr. Fridois'. When a card is added to your terror pile, place 1 marker on this and score when it has 5. So it's a bit rough, would have liked to have that out earlier. It would have had 2 progress, well 1, because one of the terror cards is from the start of the game. Anyway, he then, as a special action, used Casting Fears. You select an apparition within 4, and thanks to his large base, he is actually within 4 of the Nightmare of Demotivation. So he told that one, hey, do an attack action on Nightwing again, and this time, even though both his normal attacks were easily saved, his 2 strength dice from Devastating got through, one of which was a crit. So not only did Nightwing take 2 stun damage, which, that's not much at all, really, he is now poisoned, and also it procced crit Fear, or True Fear, whatever it's called. So that's yet another card in the fear pile. Also 1 more progress on Test Patience, so that's it up to 2. And I think that covers everything that happened during his turn. He moved, he put down a suspect marker, he did a special action. Yes, I think that's everything. He did a bunch, and he put a card into play. So I think that takes us to the end of round 1, finally. So at the end of round 1, a bunch of stuff is happening. However, just retconning something slightly, during Tim's turn, he could have put down a suspect marker, and that is within 8 of Dr. Fridois, who is being monitored via the monitoring card, which would put 1 marker on it towards it needing a ton to score. So we're going to say he did that because he did not use his tactical action at all. So because he moved and then did a special action. So we're going to say that's what was done, so he's going to have a suspect marker in front of his face. Anyway, at the end of the game, at the end of the round, the snitch scores. So it's only 2 now, but it has scored for the GCPD. Monitoring and great performance stay in play. For Scarecrow, he is scoring a Phase 4 card, and it is The Dawn Comes. Your objective deck has at least 1 fear card in it. There's a bunch in there. There's a lot. But upon scoring that and having to draw another, a fear card got drawn. So a suspect marker had to be moved 4 inches, and Scarecrow opted for the one that got moved by hacking to be moved right back where it is. So you can probably see it once again in front of Dr. Fridawa and behind the Fear Beast. And that also put 1 marker on what do you fear, because a fear card is going back into the fear pile in a second. That means also that It's Okay to Be Afraid, that was put into play during the first turn, has scored because it was still in play when you drew/discarded a fear card. So Scarecrow didn't score anything during the round. He definitely has a lot of pots boiling with so many cards in play, but right at Phase 4, that's him now on the board for 5, so he caught up real quick. Let's go to the top of turn 2. At the top of turn 2, there is no Phase 1 or Phase 2 cards being played. It was a draw for initiative roll, so the side that didn't get it gets it, so the GCPD are going first this round. Everyone healed 1 stun at the end of the last round, forgot to cover that. Remembered eventually to do the poison test for Nightwing, he failed it and has taken 1 blood damage. And the wake up check for the orderly that got knocked out by him completely KO'd, so he is not getting up, at least not yet. But I think the only person who can arrest is Bullock. So, well, actually Bullock might be close enough to do that. So he might be removed from the table. I guess we'll just have to see. Anyway, on with the round. As it turns out, not only did Harvey walk up and arrest the orderly to remove them as a casualty, it was the optimal time to do so because he scored Get Them Off the Streets for a massive 3. Now remember, this card has been nerfed slightly in the sense that it's a bit harder to score. You have to have a friendly suspect marker within 8, but he did. It's right there, the one that Nightwing put down at turn 2. So he moved, he used his special action to arrest that orderly and score that card, and then he shot at Scarecrow with his gun, because look at Scarecrow, who wouldn't shoot at him? Because he moved before firing, he was only rolling 1 normal die, so Scarecrow didn't bother passing off like protection. He can discard a card from the terror pile without resolving any negative effect from doing so in order to pick a nightmare and make them the target. Chose to just take it, and Harvey missed, so no damage to him. Still good turn for him though. Scarecrow activated first for his crew and once again had a very busy turn, so let's get on with it. He used his special action to inspire fear in Bullock. We are using the pumpkin there to represent the scared status effect. Bullock failed his willpower test by, well, he rolled an 11, so he failed it by 5. So he got scared, he got terror, and he got movement -4. So another terror card means that 1 new thing on new compound and 1 thing on state of fear. And then Scarecrow moved, put down a suspect marker there. It is outside of 10, outside of 4 of that one, but within 4 of Bullock, so it scored Deepest Fears. Place a suspect within 4 inches of an enemy model that suffers any effect. Actually, Nightwing's within 4 as well, and he's got poison, so 2 different ways that scores for 2. Then proc the once per round check to see if State of Fear is scored. You draw the top card of the deck and see if it matches up to the tokens based on the number of markers you've got. Technically should have done this at the tail end of the final turn because you can do it once per round and there's no downside. It actually would have scored at the end of the first round, so we're just going to count it as a score because it was an exclamation mark type card. So that has scored as well, so something not needed to keep track of. Nightwing activated for the GCPD because he couldn't pass up the opportunity to get at Scarecrow. He's really the only closest one to do so, and Scarecrow's actually outside of 4, so he can't pass off the attacks to a nightmare. So Nightwing went after him, but not before doing Vigilante's work for 1 stun in order to, it would help if the suspect marker was revealed, or removed rather, to use that free manipulate to remove that suspect marker and score comb through everything, unchanged. Friendly model reveals an enemy suspect. Any of these cards that say gut feeling, just as a reminder, is just the new keyword for it. You can draw 2 objective cards and then discard 1. So anyway, that has scored. So because there's 3 cards in the terror pile, and Nightwing did not opt to have them affect him because that would be too dangerous, Scarecrow had 3 free efforts. Nightwing did 1, so he's now up to a total of 4 stun to himself with 2 self-inflicted, and he wasn't rolling that many dice. The strength die did get through, however, for 2 stun, but beyond that Scarecrow saved everything, so not super great there, but at least he scored a card. Dr. Fridawa activated, moved up right in front of Batman and Robin, although again intel support, so she's not really there. And she, as a special action, used Inspire Fear on Robin, and I kid you not, he rolled an 11 for his test as well, so he failed his by 4 because he has higher willpower than Bullock. I think he actually has higher willpower than Nightwing. Anyway, so he failed it by equally as much in terms of the negatives applied, so he is now scared. He also made a terror card go into the terror deck, so there's 4 in there now, so that's +1 on new compound. And because of induction, which is the role she shares with Scarecrow, another fear card from the fear deck is shuffled into his objective deck. There's at least 5 in there now, they just have to get drawn, which hasn't happened yet. She's not doing anything with a tactical action, she is just chilling there. Alfred was up next for the GCPD. He was originally behind that blue truck to the right of your screen. He did a movement action. He has a radio inbuilt. He doesn't have Audacity. He used that radio via Inspire to put down a suspect marker, and that is the snitch for this round. So same rules apply. The nightmares can't move, so none of the nightmares are going to get close enough to stop that from scoring. We'll see if anyone else can. The Nightmare of Fear that got taken out in round 1 is back, popping off of the suspect marker that Scarecrow put down, and it has the Inspire Fear trait, so he used it on Dick, and Nightwing managed to fail his test by 1. Although actually I think it was failed by 2, because I think they give a debuff of -1 to willpower, but either way it still just does the same thing, which is the scared effect. Nothing else beyond that, but that was enough to score a city in fear. At least 3 models are suffering the scared status. Precisely 3 are. And then, as cards were drawn to refill up to 4, 2 fear cards appeared. One of them with very poor English that I presume has now been fixed in the new version of his deck, but it was just ignored. It's supposed to say an enemy model is moved 4 inches directly backwards from the... Sorry, it's this one. An enemy model... No, it is this one. An enemy model is moved 4 inches directly backwards the closest enemy model. It's moved from the... But it's worded weirdly. But it means move an enemy 4 inches away from... one of your guys. Is what it means, I think. But either way, don't need to take advantage of that. The point is a fear card got resolved. This one also, an enemy model within 4 inches of at least one of your suspect markers suffers terror. Plenty of models fit that criteria. So that is the 5th card. Is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5th card in the terror pile now. So new compounds up to 3. Test patience is up to... Oh, that's still at 2 because that's for people attacking. Nightmares attacking. What do you fear is up to 3, so that's 1 away from scoring. And a lot of progress made there. So, a good turn. Batman was next up for the GCPD, throwing the last of his batarangs into the Fear Beast, who was dissipated and vanished as a result. He then moved next to the suspect marker that had spawned the Beast, used Vigilante's work, so 1 self-inflicted stun, to do a free manipulate to remove that one, and also scored a comb through everything, another one off the back of that, for removing a suspect marker. So, a good turn there. The Fear Beast is gone. I don't think he's allowed to come back this turn, even though he activated. I could never quite remember or work out how that worked. But I think that does mean he... Well, actually, it might have updated the wording in the app, so we can check. Because he might still be able to come back off of the back of another suspect marker, on the assumption there's space for him to fit, and that he wants to go there. It does specify in a subsequent round they can come back, so yeah, the Fear Beast will not be arriving this round again. I don't remember if it always said that or not. Either way, the Fat Orderly on top of the building there activated. She didn't do anything else despite having Audacity, then placed down a suspect marker on that roof, and is just kind of staying away from what's happening in the grounds below. So Robin activated the final activation of turn 2, I believe, for the GCPD. -4 movement because he's scared, but he used Bat Claw as a special action to counteract that, so he actually got +2 overall or whatever, and has moved down where you can see him in contact with the Little Nightmare there, struck at him with -1 to his attack dice rolls because of scared as well for the round. Scared goes away at the end of the round, if I haven't mentioned that on camera, but because he was going up against defense 2, it's still enough that he did get rid of the Little Nightmares. So now we can cover what happens when Little Nightmares disappear. They are not brought back in the same way the normal sized and Fear Beast Nightmares are. The rule for them is Small Nightmare. This model doesn't follow the normal trait to come back. Instead, they can be set in play in contact with a friendly suspect marker when a fear card is returned to the fear pile. But they can only activate in that round in which they are brought back if they haven't already. And then the other part of that rule is just about them having +1 defense against ranged attacks. So that Little Nightmare will come back this round and would get an activation because it hasn't activated if a fear card finds its way back to the fear deck. So the only other activation to go for Scarecrow's crew is the other Little Nightmare. They're still bound by the rules of not being able to move as far as I'm aware. Yeah, movement 0. So Bullock, however, is within range 4, but that doesn't matter. They actually do have a short range ranged attack, so their threat radius is 8. It's called like insignificance or something like that to show that they're not doing much, but it can do the scared status effect. A less than insignificant is what it's called. It's only rolling 2 dice. His strength dice is on a 5+. Oh, actually no, sorry, it's on a 3+, so he did do 2 stun to Bullock. I was going to say he's only done 1, which is about to heal, so it was worthless. Never mind, it had mechanical on it, so it's a 3+. So he did 2 stun to Bullock. That's something, I suppose. And with that, we're going to... Oh, actually, the other Nightmare can probably do something to Bullock as well, right? Because he didn't activate. I was getting confused because Scarecrow made him do something earlier in the round, but that wasn't his activation. Yeah, glad I caught that, because the activation that Scarecrow made him have is not his activation. So he just attacked Nightwing because Nightwing's got -1 to his defense because he's scared right now and his stun damage is building up. Got the True Fear proc again by rolling a crit, and other than that just did the 1 stun, which I haven't bothered putting on because it's about to heal because we're at the end of the round. But that is another Fear card gone into the objective deck. So at the end of turn 2, Nightwing failed his poison test again and took 1 damage. So he's in a bit of a precarious position. No phase 4 cards being scored by the GCPD, however, Scarecrow is once again scoring the Dawn Comes. It's the other version of this card, or the other iteration, so there's no more left, so that's them both scored. There is at least 1 Fear card. On that note, when drawing back up to 4, Fear cards, that's +1 on What Do You Fear, which is enough that it procs as well. It reached 4, so it has also scored for 3. And I think that covers everything. So yeah, they're once again in the final phase of a turn. Scarecrow's crew scores a massive 5. So that's how they're keeping up, because they're not scoring that many cards compared to the GCPD. But when they score, they're scoring high value ones. I think I covered everything, so let's move on to turn 3. Top of the penultimate turn, and Scarecrow's crew will be going first. A couple of things forgot to mention. There was a snitch in play, so they did technically score something in that end phase there. They scored that snitch because the one Alfred put down has no enemies within 4 of it. So that scored. Other thing for to mention, Nightmares landed a couple of hits during that turn, so Test Patience is up to 4. If one more Nightmare lands at least 1 hit on someone, that will proc and score as well. Scarecrow activated first for his crew, seeing an opportunity to kill Nightwing, basically. Struck at him with his double blood scythe. If he'd gotten a crit, he actually would have killed Nightwing. He managed to get 2 hits through, all said and done, so that's 4 more damage on top of the 4 more blood on top of the 2 he already had. He's a 7 willpower, 7 endurance model, so he has 1 health left. On that note, during Scarecrow's turn, he played another What Do You Fear into play, since the last one scored, so when fewer cards are returned to the Fear pile, you place 1 on it, and it's immediately getting 2 on it, because 2 Fear cards then got drawn to try and recoup the deck. Nightwing has been given the scared effect, and the suspect marker that Scarecrow put down last turn has been moved between where the Nightmares are, so it's in front of the one in blue now. So, very good turn there, and he's opting not to move. He's staying there because he's got a Nightmare next to him he can pass off wounds to. Nightwing activated to get out of dodge. He attacked Scarecrow before leaving. Scarecrow just decided to take it because he's so weak, and because of so many cards being in the terror pile, he's getting 3 free efforts. So Nightwing ended up only rolling 2 dice against him. Neither got through, but upon resolving that, he decided to take one for the team a little bit and remove 2 cards from the terror pile. That's enough. You can do up to 3, but if he did all 3, he'd be at poison 4, and that procs a poison test immediately, and that could literally kill him. So he's taken 2 cards out of the terror pile and has gone up to poison 3 as a result, which in the grand scheme of things probably won't matter. But yeah, managed to do that, and then he just retreated. He's just going to try and stay alive at this point to score that final 4 points at the end of the game. Dr. Fridowa activated, moved to where you can see her sort of next to Alfred there. She tried to inspire fear in Batman of all people, but that's because there was no more, there wasn't a more valid target for what she was trying to do. He passed it exactly with what he needed. So in that case, she, for 1 resource point, used Fear Makes You Predictable, which is you discard X number of cards from the top of your deck where X is equal to the cards in your terror pile. So that was 4 to try and fish for fear cards. Got 1 of them. So that is 1 on What You Fear, so it's up to 3 now. And it's +1 damage to a friendly model within 4 of an enemy. The Nightmare of Fear, it's the Scarecrow one, is going to have +1 attack. Tim activated, moved down to where you can see him, where it's awkward because it's covered in cards that are in play thanks to their limited keyword, and put down a suspect marker meeting the criteria for detective work, and has scored that for 2. A friendly model with a detective trait, which he does have, sets a suspect marker completely within the enemy deployment zone, which he has. Actually, I mean, that probably is fine, but hey, just to make sure, there. The Fear Beast is back, spawning at this suspect marker. He had Audacity as well, so first of all, he inspired Fear in Bullock. Bullock would have passed the test if not for the Insidious rule, which the Nightmares have. It is +1 to the roll you make for your willpower roll, i.e. making it easier for you to fail it, but it stops at +3, can't go beyond that. So that made Bullock fail it by 2, so that's just scared effect. Then he struck at him, the Fear Beast attacked him, and all said and done, managed to get 1 hit through for 1 blood, 1 stun. That's not super great, but his basic attacks proc Terror and Fear. So a Fear card has been added to the deck, and a Terror card has been added to the Terror pile. So both of those things happening scores 2 cards that were in play. The New Compound and Test Patients both reached their criteria for scoring, so there is 4. We're sticking here with Bullock because he fired the second load of his 3 rounds of ammunition into this apparition, getting a bunch of hits because he hadn't moved, turning it all into non-lethal ammo though. Friendly model within 8 of a friendly suspect, which is again how they've debuffed this slightly, but he's right next to one. Changes all blood damage inflicted with a ranged weapon to stun. But in the Nightmare's case, that doesn't matter, they still go away. So he will not be activating and can't come back onto the table this round. Bullock then, with -4 to his movement, because of scared, retreated over here, but did at least score something. The Nightmare of Demotivation, the one in blue doing the thing with his head there, activated, and also you might notice that little nightmare suddenly, he should have respawned much earlier when that fear card got added, or 2 fear cards got added back to the fear pile, so he's just spawned off the back of that suspect marker. Anyway, during his turn he put a new Test Patience into play, and is getting 1 on it because he did manage to land actually 2 hits on Bullock, and Bullock is now up to 4 stun damage and still just has the 1 blood. Him being scared for -1 to his defense rolls actually helped there. Didn't get a crit though, so nothing there. And Bullock is now poisoned. It says poison 2, but just ignore that, it's poison 1. Batman activated, used that prodigious movement to move next to the Fear Beast, used Vigilante's work for 1 stun to remove the suspect marker that was there and met the criteria to score finding a suspect. A friendly model with a detective trait, which he has, reveals an enemy suspect marker at least 10 inches away from the edge of the gaming area, which it is, so he scored that for 2. Then, since that was via Vigilante's work, he assaulted the Fear Beast, and to spare you blathering, the Fear Beast is obliterated again and sent into the ether, but he can always come back in the final turn. She started up there on the building, but for a silly Hail Mary play, the tubby Arkham Asylum worker deliberately fell off the side, so you measure from where they started to where they ended up, including the height of the building, and if it's greater than your movement distance, you take 2 blood, which it was. If it's more than double, you just die, for the record. But no, she took 2 blood, and she did that to get into base-to-base with Nightwing and assault him. She took 3 efforts, he couldn't afford to take any, and she got him for 4 stun, which is enough that she knocked him out. Sadly can't do anything beyond that, and it doesn't like score anything or anything like that. It does take him out, he might just end up dying to the poison roll at the end of the round anyway, but that was just a silly thing for her to do. And it's weird that her shock thing that she's got doesn't do any blood at all. It's got the sharp roll and does no blood. It does stun and then 2 extra on crits, which she didn't get. So, yeah, a bit weird. All that was left for the penultimate round were the 2 little nightmares, so we're just going to cover those quickly. They both did the same thing. They both did attack actions. This one attacked Batman, the other one attacked Harvey. The one that attacked Batman, only the strength die got through for 1 stun, which is just going to heal, so no need to change anything. And 1 hit also got through on Harvey for 1 stun as well. In both instances though, that's 2 procs on Test Patients, so it's up to 3 of the 5 needed to score. And that takes us to the end of round 3. At the end of round 3, there's no phase 4 cards being played. There's no in-play cards that are scoring either. The important thing was his Nightwing waking up, or more importantly, does he stay on the table or does he fail his poison roll? He failed it. So that is enough that he is expired. He's out of there. That also means that Great Performance is out of there and will not be scoring for 4 at the end of the game, and that could be disastrous. Who knows? Because that is a really high value card. Just lots of little chip damage wore him away, and now he's gone. So yeah, very bad. Nightwing is gone. Nothing scored off of him going that way. If he died during the round, Scarecrow has a card for taking out someone who's suffering a stats effect, but it can't work in stage 4. So anyway, let's go to the 4th and final turn. Top of round 4, the final round. Nothing to cover, no phase 1 or phase 2 cards. Forgot to do Bullock's poison check. He has passed it. He passed it with Snake Eyes actually. And it is Scarecrow's crew taking first activation. Scarecrow activated first for his crew, moved into distance with Bullock, used Inspire Fear. Thanks to Insidious from the nightmares around, he failed it by 3, so that procced Terror and Scared, or in opposite order, Scared first then Terror. And then Scarecrow attacked him, getting 3 free efforts because of the many plethora of cards in the terror pile. The GCPD have not been doing a good job of removing crucial moments. And took Bullock out. His double blood scythe just took his head off. So Bullock is out of there, will not be activating, and that does score the card I was talking about, Endless Torment. Remove as a casualty an enemy model affected by the Scared effect, which he was just before he died. Batman's final activation of the game. He didn't really end up doing that much fighting during the whole match, except for fighting ghosts, but he did get a lot done. He has moved into the ruins down here, well within Scarecrow's original deployment zone, put down a suspect marker, and scored detective work. Second of the potential 3 of those done. Doing nothing else, doesn't need to. Dr. Fridawa activated. Her final activation of the game was moving here, putting a suspect marker down outside of 10 from where they started. Then using as a resource, Fear makes you predictable, to get rid of, I think it was 7 or 8 cards in total. Because of the number of fear cards they have, only 1 was found through doing that, but it was enough that the What Do You Fear in play reached 4 and has scored as a result. In case you were wondering through this entire battle report where are the boo cards for Scarecrow's crew, this is their current objective hand. Yeah, just so you know. Tim activated, and a change of plans of what he was originally going to do, opted to remove that suspect marker that Dr. Fridawa just put down because it was clearly to spawn some nightmares off of that might have been able to reach him, since Alfred technically isn't on the table and Batman is well gone. So he went there, revealed that, and still managed to score on it. I think this is the third and final. Combed through everything. So that has at least scored. And now it's a bunch of nightmares to go. Again, because Alfred isn't actually on the table, there probably isn't much they can do, and you've seen what their hand is. So we'll probably just skip through here because there isn't really much for them to do. So there is now just a nice congregation of nightmares around these 2 suspect markers because that's the only locations they can spawn. And we're pretty much able to go to the end of the game because there's nothing that the asylum lady down there can do. The only thing that can happen during Alfred's final turn is that he can go towards that building far away from everyone and put down a suspect marker that is the third and final snitch. So we're just going to say that's done because the nightmares can't move, so they can't get over to it. The fat orderly won't be able to get over there either, so we're just going to count that as scoring. And as far as like weird just how it worked out deck composition wise, the GCPD obviously lost a lot to the terror pile that's still in there, like 7 or 8 cards, but like both the Robin unique cards, which would have been nice scoring opportunities for Tim, they were in their undrawn cards the entire time, and that's despite shuffling in at the end of each turn as well. So it's just weird how that works out. But anyway, yeah, with the snitch scored and the test patients not scored because no nightmares can spawn next to anyone that can take damage, so they can't do any damage, ergo it can't score. We'll keep that in mind and go to the score piles to see who's actually won this thing. So hopefully the 2 piles here shouldn't be too shiny. Just a couple of notes. The fear pile did indeed still have 7 cards in it, so that was pretty rough. And there was only 1 fear card left that hadn't been put back into the fear deck. GCPD definitely got the bigger pile, but I think a lot of Scarecrow's cards were worth 3. I'm really curious if that Nightwing card not scoring is going to be important. So let's start with the GCPD. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21, 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 27. That's a tough ask. Let's see if Scarecrow will manage it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Not quite. If that last card, if a nightmare had found a way to land a hit, that was worth 3 as well, right? If it was worth 2, that would have got them to a draw state. If it was worth 3, it actually would have given them the win. And then the Nightwing card would have mattered at that point. So that was a long one, but that was our Halloween special for the Batman miniature game. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. If you do want to see more Batman, please do remember to show your support. You can do that freely by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing around. It all helps the algorithm, and then the algorithm takes notice, and that hopefully helps things out. If you can spare a little bit extra, would really appreciate maybe pressing the thanks button or becoming a channel member to get early access to videos like this one. Or if you want to buy something for yourself, including the Batman miniature game, my channel sponsor does stock them out. I actually picked up a couple of things from them. You can go check that out via the affiliate link, and if you do get anything through that link, I get compensated. Happy Halloween, and see you next time for more. Ta for now.